Okay, we should be live. Yay. It says it's live. It says it's live. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna remove. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna go there and save changes. Yeah, something happens with my Twitter account. It didn't want to go live, so we're gonna just go there. So welcome everyone. Hopefully everything's working at this point and everybody can see it. You're watching Framed Perspectives. I'm your host, Douglas Burns, founder of D&D Productions, a corporate photography firm based in Houston, Texas. And with me is the wonderful Arias WebsterBerry, marketing guru, and we're going to talk all about marketing and whatnot, and a little bit about your backstory, Arias, because you've got an interesting backstory. But I don't want to dwell too much on it, but we'll definitely touch on it. So if you're watching us, I wanted to say thank you for watching us, this is being recorded, so be sure to check back if you missed the live, find the recording. It'll be out there. If you want to comment, you feel free to comment, and we will happy to answer any questions that you may have. Both of us lie really good. So no, I promise we won't lie, but we will fake it if we have to. So that's one thing I've learned about business is fake it until you make it. Arias,
Yes, sir.
welcome. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Happy New Year to you. How are your holidays, by the way?
Man, it has been the holiday was great. I rang it in with friends and family, nice and warm, and we just watched the fireworks. I lived not too far from downtown, and they had this huge fireworks display, so it was a great way to bring in the new year. And man, we are only a few days into this year, and I've got a year's worth of stuff to be grateful for. So I'm
Oh,
excited.
that's fantastic. Look, if you can't be grateful for anything else, you're great. If you're vertical and above ground, be grateful for that.
Indeed.
Right? If you can't be grateful for anything else, be grateful that you woke up today and you're moving forward. So even if you're moving slowly, you're moving. That's so always be grateful. I have to remind myself of that on a regular basis sometimes. So that's fabulous. Arias, you've got an interesting backstory. We're gonna delve in. Arias is a marketing guru, and we're going to get in and pick his brain. And some of what I like about this is I get free coaching when I talk to people like this. Uh, but but we're gonna get into the marketing, and we're gonna get into talking about his book and everything else. But you've got a kind of an interesting backstory. I don't want to say it's a troubled childhood, but it was not an easy childhood that you had, and you've work to overcome that and build out a fairly successful marketing company. So, give me just a little bit of where you come from and what motivates you to keep moving today.
Yeah, man. I very much grew up. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. When I was around 11 or so, we moved to San Diego, and it just seemed that life was designed to test me, especially at an early age. So, before I was 18, my mom and I had lived in over 12 different places. So, three cities, two states, 12 homes. My father wasn't around much because he struggled with addiction. So, he had a full ride scholarship to Rice University, and he got mixed up in the first, maybe the second wave of the opioid crisis, what we call it now. And he struggled with addiction for a really long time. As a result, he was in and out of jail, and he lost his battle when I was 13. I came home from school, and my mom let me know that he had passed after a altercation with police officers. He
Mm,
lost his life on the side of the freeway, and that was my freshman year of high school. So that was a crucial time, right? You're trying to figure out a transition from middle school and being a kid to, a young adult. And I get hit with this earth shattering news that, he had passed. So my grades took a hit. I acted out. Luckily, not too bad because I didn't end up getting into drugs or any of that kind of stuff. But it was tough. And then my freshman year of high school, my mom was involved in a domestic violence situation where she tried to defend herself, took it too far, and she ended up in jail herself. So again, freshman year in college, trying to figure my way through, this defining time in my life, and now my support system is gone. So I ended up dropping out of college because I needed to figure out where I was going to live. I needed to figure out I needed a job. How was I going to eat? Transportation, and all those things
And you're
at the
18,
age
and
of like,
that's a tough
yeah,
time. I mean, there's a in our society, 18 is not. It's rare you get an 18-year-old that's ready to take on all of that.
exactly. And I just, I barely knew how to balance a checkbook, right? So, I'm having to figure out, an apartment, filling out applications, and I need to get a job, and, all these different things. It was just a lot for an 18-year-old kid who had never been away from home, really. Um, so, I eventually kind of found my footing in the entertainment world. I got into doing some marketing for a small record label. I had moved. I was in Orange County at the time. I moved back to San Diego, and the same guy who owned that record label also had a promotions company. So I started doing promotions for nightclubs. Got into some small concerts, bigger concerts, and then eventually festivals. My largest event being at the Los Angeles Sports Arena for about 17,000 people, working with Grammy Award winning artists like Common and Janelle Monáe and Ludacris and Mixmaster Mike from the Beastie Boys and a ton of other artists that were at that event. And that's really where I got. I kind of started going to where I am today. It was my first time getting a chance to do holistic marketing. I got a chance to negotiate contracts with outdoor marketing companies for billboards. I got to negotiate contracts and shoot commercials for TV and go to radio stations and see how they cut radio spots and um, coordinating multiple street teams that were passing out flyers and putting up posters and
And this is all
just
hands-on education. This is you're out there
yeah.
doing it in the real world. This is not academic. The professor said this, and this is how we apply it. This is like, no, boots on the ground, get out and just get it done.
Exactly. Instead of me sitting in a lecture class or a classroom and learning marketing theory and structure, I was just thrown into it like, hey, we're meeting with Clear Channel today, and we're going to talk about buying 100 billboards around Greater Los Angeles. So I'm like, all right, great. So learning that and how to talk to graphic designers about sizes and pixels and how long it's going to take to print the stuff and get it over and get crews to put it up, just a whole bunch of stuff, right? Just very quickly learning things on my feet. But it's what that concert like was the defining moment where I decided that I wanted to do marketing for a living. And it wasn't until several years after that I got to digital marketing, but that was the defining moment.
That's fantastic. That's and I love that journey, and I love the fact that you just got out there and started doing it. You obviously had some mentors, you had some people leading you along the way and kind of holding your hand as they were showing you the ropes. But I've I went the traditional college route, got my degree, the whole 9 yards, and found out very quickly that everything I learned in college meant nothing once you got out in the real world. So I wanted to say congratulations to you and well done and you know putting yourself out there and just saying, hey, what this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it happen, and you did. You made it happen. So and I'm a big believer in real world education. Get out there and just make it happen, and just find some mentors and take it where it takes it. So uh,
Yeah, I mean it cuts the learning curve for sure.
well, something you had put on, I think it was on your bio about uh, good is better than perfect.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I think
talk to me about
done
that.
is better than
Where
perfect.
where did you pick that up, and how do you know, good enough is better is it, you know, where it's just good enough is better than, or done is better than perfect. And I've heard that multiple times too, and I'm a big believer in it. But where did you pick it up, and how do you implement it with what you do?
Um, you know, I probably one of my clients or maybe YouTube. It was one of those things where I suffer from I like many an entrepreneur feel like I have to have everything looking great before I can put it out. And really it comes from a place of fear, right? Fear of judgment, fear of my own self-limiting ideas about myself or self-image, right? Um, and I realized that I stunted my own growth. I have not. I should have made probably $100 million by now if I would have realized that it doesn't have to be perfect to go out. It doesn't. It doesn't have to look like the multimillionaire that's got a whole team of people, behind the scenes controlling things and who have all these degrees and all this specialized knowledge. When you set that as the bar and then you look at your stuff, you're like, oh, it's not good enough to go out. But the reality is, everyone starts somewhere. So, this mantra that I have now for myself, that I have for all of my clients, they hear me say it all the time. In our entrepreneurial accelerator called Launch Ignition, I say this every week in our calls. Done is better than perfect. Progress over perfection. You always have the opportunity to iterate, but you have to take the first step and just put the thing out. And that's whether that's a piece of content, if that's an email, if that is a new product or service, or if it's a website or a t-shirt or a sales call, right? You're going to screw it up the first time. That's the way all things are as a human, right? No, it's a very rare person that does it perfectly the first time. It's like 1 in 100 million that does it perfect the first time. But most of us think that everybody does it great the first time, so we don't want to publish unless it's perfect. And that's just not reality. And a lot of great and talented people have their talent still trapped inside of them while they're still trying to make things perfect.
So the shorthand here is just get it done, get it out there, get it, whatever you're working on. Um, just let the marketplace know what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, man. Because if you don't, then you miss the moment. I've realized that windows of opportunity are fleeting. They're finite. And there's a lot of people that are not as talented as you that you see all the time that are getting that are racking up accolades and attention and adulation, and they're winning simply because they're bold enough to take the step and take the leap. And even though you're more talented, you're more experienced, you've worked harder, you know more, who cares if you're not sharing it with the world?
Yeah, no, look, and sometimes that's hard. I mean, look, I'm a creative. Being a photographer, that's what I do. I'm very comfortable behind the camera. This,
Mm-hmm.
for me, being in front of the camera is, I don't want to say it's like pulling teeth, but I mean, it's a learned thing, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm comfortable doing. Um, Even though I have worked in and around television for literally my entire career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but being, you know, hosting a pod, if I told my wife, look, if I wanted to go into radio, I would have gone into radio. I mean, hosting a pod, I do this podcast because it's a marketing tool for me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning from other people. I'm having great conversations, but this is not easy, and you know, it's hard to put your out, and sometimes I don't know if it's just because I'm a creative or if it's because I'm an entrepreneur, but putting yourself out there and saying, "Hey, world, look at me," you know, it's that's a little intimidating.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm the same. I have the ability to go on camera, but I've avoided the spotlight for a very long time, right? Um, and I realized that I was, like I said, stunning my growth in, worrying about what other people think, in worrying about um, what could go wrong. in there are, ever since I've started this whole, because I'm guesting on podcasts. Ever since I've started doing this, I'm getting calls and text messages and emails left and right from various people saying, "Oh, I didn't know that you did blah blah blah." Right? I didn't know that you had a Ignite Funnels. I didn't know that was yours. I didn't know that you had a CRM. Oh, I didn't know that you have a team that does public relations and marketing. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been doing marketing for 15 years. You came to an event that I had about marketing. But you know, there's marketing and then there's personal branding. And a lot of people,
Yeah, let's talk about that. What is the
yeah.
difference between marketing and personal branding? How do you look at that?
Well, your personal branding is what you are known as an expert in, right? So your personal branding is, hey, I've been doing, film in photography for decades, right? Being known as someone who has mastered a craft, and you taking the time to make sure that um, when you're not in the room, what are people saying about you? How do they introduce you? Hey, oh yeah, my guy, my buddy Douglas Burns. Oh man, he takes the most beautiful photographs. Man, I saw this one photo, and he was a swan and this woman. He transposed him. It was, oh my god, wow, right? It's those things that people automatically recall about who you are and what benefits you give to the world. And are you controlling that image? Are you controlling that narrative? As opposed to marketing, well, that's you looking to attract business specifically and tell people about your offerings, right? So, hey, um, it's Black Friday. I'm doing a special on headshots, right? That's different than someone knowing that Douglas Burns is a photographer, as opposed to Doug has a special on headshots for Black Friday, or Doug does commercials, right? Though there's a difference in you being able to articulate your offer and then articulate your expertise.
Okay. Well, and folks, I would love it if people are watching us live on LinkedIn, and we're on LinkedIn, and we're on Facebook, and we're on where else? YouTube right now. And I couldn't get my Twitter account to connect. I got to look into that, so we'll figure that one out later. But the if you're watching this live, feel free to join in on the comments here, and love to hear from you guys and hear what you have to think. If you especially got any questions regarding marketing and whatnot. Arias, when your clientele, are you working with mom and pop, small businesses, individual entrepreneurs? Are you working with medium-sized businesses? Where are who are you working with? Where are you finding the most people that you can help with your company?
I mean, we have quite a few clients. We're in the hundreds now, but so we have clients that are all over the board, right? Other than maybe some Fortune 500 companies, we have large corporations. We have like a hotel chain as a client. We have small businesses that are under 5 million. Maybe 5, 10 employees, 20 employees. And then we have solopreneurs, right? We have course creators and professionals, people that are self-employed. So the guy who maybe does who's a barber on the side or is a graphic designer on the side. Um, we have all of those people and everything in between.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it's folks, if you're interested in working with Arias, here's his website. It is I've got the website. There we go. WebsterBerryMarketing.com. And I know he'd love to work with you guys. Stop the jargon. No, we're just going to leave it right there. You can read what that says. So, what when you're working with entrepreneurs who are getting started and are struggling with marketing, what is it that you find are their biggest pain points, and what are some of the easy things that they can do to overcome them right away?
Sure. A couple things. One, the biggest issue that I see with most of them is consistency. So if you go to most people's social media, if you go to their website, maybe they started a blog 2 years ago. They posted once every 6 months. Maybe they only posted once. They haven't posted since 2018 on the blog. If you go to their social media, the last time they posted was 3 or 4 months ago, or maybe 3, 4 weeks ago. They post sporadically. So consistency is usually a big thing for a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs, and that's simply because they wear so many hats, and it's tough for you to produce content regularly in order to get your message out there. The second thing, and this is probably something that doesn't get talked about enough from what I see, is they do not have a predictable lead source. They don't have a place that they can go to anytime they want in order to get more prospective customers. Most of them have never even really thought about that. Um, the vast majority of the companies that I come across, big and small, they get a lot of referrals, and maybe they've been doing it for a long time, so they get a steady, semi-steady amount of people referring business, and they kind of just they live off of that, right? And then there's sometimes where referrals are low, and money is low at that time. So they have not really sat down and developed a consistent and a predictable lead source.
Well, I know that's definitely one of my issues, and that's figuring that equation out. I think is probably the biggest challenge I've personally faced as an entrepreneur. I can build the systems, I can produce the product. I'm great one on one with clients, but that lead source, that lead generation thing, that's a tough nut to crack. So where do you? And I'm sure industries are different, depending on whether or not you're a service based industry or a product based industry or food based or whatever. But what are some of the common things that people find that work to really ramp up that consistent lead generation?
Um, well, I always say, you need to 100x, 10x to 100x everything that you're doing. One of the things that you can do is take an assessment of your existing customer base, right? Go back through your customer base and see where they came from, right? They were a referral, awesome, but who referred them? If you go back through the last 10, 20, 100 customers, is there one person that's referring the majority of your leads? Well, maybe you need to figure out how to incentivize them to give you some more, right? How did you hear about us? Oh, Janice. And then you just type in referral, right? You didn't say referral from Janice, because Janice is someone you need to call and thank and send her a Christmas card and, maybe take her to dinner and figure out where she's getting these leads, so that you can get more of them more regularly. Maybe again, consistency in social media, right? If you people, oh, I posted or I made a video and I'm not really getting anything from it. I mean, you posted one video in the last 3 months. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to exactly move 100 people to decide to purchase from you today, right? You need to do those things consistently. Going to trade shows, going to conferences, working with adjacent businesses. That's a really good one. Maybe not a competitor, but someone who's in a business that's next to yours, where you share customers, and maybe you guys can share leads. Like, hey, I've got someone that I just did a photo shoot for. You're a makeup artist, right? Do you have some people that you're doing makeup for that also need photos, right? Maybe a local public relations company, right? Or a local marketing company. They are going to need those things. So, hey, you got some people who are looking for photos. This guy's an entrepreneur. Maybe I can get him over to this marketing company and we can just swap clients back and forth. Whenever I get someone who needs headshots, I let them know about the marketing company. And if they're interested, I give them the lead. If they've got an entrepreneur that needs some headshots, they shoot them over to me and I become their preferred vendor for photos, right? um, it's again, it's the thought of you trying to develop that lead source that then allows you to actually develop it. Most business owners don't really think about, oh, I need a lead source. That term is most likely never come out of most of their mouths. It's never been a thought in their head. They know they need leads, but they never say, well, where's the source? But the most predictable way is ads, right? The way that you can force your message in front of the eyeballs of a certain period of people or a certain number of people is through ads. You go to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and say, hey, I've got $500, I got $100, I've got $10,000 that I want to spend on marketing my stuff in an effort to get somebody's contact information.
So we're on, and there are multiple places to do ads. I mean, whether you're, Google, LinkedIn, and you just mentioned a whole bunch of online ads. Plus, there's the traditional radio and television. You and I were having a conversation earlier about billboards. I mean, what is your ad spend going to be more dependent on your on the type of business that you have, or is it going to be, or do you find that some types of marketing work better than other types of marketing, or excuse me, advertising? Some types of ads of ad spend works better than other types of ad spend.
I mean, again, there are a ton of different ways you can do ads, right? You can get an ad in a restroom at a local bar if you want, right?
Right.
There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Every industry is different. There's different creative ways you can do it. However, social media is probably it started as the poor man's way to advertise, right? Radio, TV, billboards, all that kind of stuff was extremely expensive. Minimum of $5,000, $10,000 spend is what it used to be. With social media, you can start with $50. Now, I wouldn't recommend you start with $50 because it's not really going to get you far these days. But you could get started there. Um, I would say beyond worrying about the place to do your ads, I think one of the things that I also see as a huge uh, issue that I come across with businesses, especially when we're working with them for the first time. I always say, okay, so what's your budget? And inevitably, they all say, I don't know.
I
Yeah,
don't
we
have a
don't really
budget.
have a exactly. And I'm just
Yeah,
like,
it's not planned for. Yeah.
and it doesn't make any sense to me, right? I work with a lot of restaurants and bars, and it baffles me when I walk into these spaces. They're beautiful. I see all these people moving around. They're doing construction. They're putting up tile. They're wiring lights. They're buying tables and crystal glassware and all this crap. And then I ask them about their marketing budget, and they don't have one, or they've allocated a very, very ridiculously small amount of money to it. So, rule of thumb for every entrepreneur paying attention, this is something that you can use for the rest of your life, your entrepreneurial career. If you're in a business to business, business B2B, you should be spending a minimum of anywhere from 5 to 10% of the amount that you plan to generate towards marketing. So if you're one of those optimistic, hey, I just started my business this year and I want to make $1 million, awesome. I believe in you. But you're going to need anywhere from, 50 to $100,000 that is earmarked towards marketing. If you don't have that, your likelihood of making $1 million is very slim. For B2C, business to consumer, you should be allocating anywhere from 10 to 15% of your budget towards marketing. When I say allocating towards marketing, that's graphic designers, that's a videographer, that's ads, that's the whole shebang. Everything that you're going to do for marketing should fit inside of that budget. So when it's the beginning of the year, and everyone's kind of looking at their budgets. They're, planning for the year. You should have already planned, but some people are
I'd like to
planning.
say that this conversation probably should have happened back in November. I'm thinking.
Absolutely. But reality is many don't have a plan. So if you're budgeting for this year and you have a revenue target for the year, look at that and make sure that you set aside, one of those percentages. Again, B2B, 5 to 10%, B2C, 10 to 15%. If you do that and you manage the budget well, that's way more likely that you'll actually hit that target.
So, and those are great rule of thumbs. I mean, I don't think I've talked to anybody in the marketing and advertising space that's talked about, how much you should spend relative to what you're looking to generate.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to a number of people in, business coaches and marketing gurus and whatnot. Um, that's fantastic to have that rule of thumb. And I'm just going to repeat that for people who missed it, because I think that's one, to me, that's one of my walking away notes is, uh, uh, 5 to 10% of your revenue, if you're in a B2B business, 5 to 10% of your revenue that you plan to generate should be earmarked toward your marketing and advertising. If you're B2C, 10 to 15% of the revenue that you want to generate should already be earmarked and spent on marketing and advertising.
Yeah, and the big thing is, actually said this to a multi-millionaire. This guy runs a construction company. They build houses, and they're generating like, I don't know, 40 to 50 million a year. And I asked them what their advertising budget was, and they said $5 grand a month.
Holy mackerel.
And then I said, so let me get this straight. You're trying to generate $60 million or $50 million this year, and you're going to spend 60,000 on advertising. And he said, well, when you put it that way, it sounds a little ridiculous. Absolutely. And I said, well, are you guys hitting your targets? He said, no, not at all. I said, well,
There you go.
there we go. And he said, yeah, I've had a ton of marketing people. I mean, this business, they've been around for 15 years. He said, no one's ever told me that. And I said, well, I guess that's the reason why they're not here. And I am, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, it's just being realistic, right? I think a lot of times in entrepreneurship, we go in with the best intentions, but we just don't have enough information.
That yeah, well, that I think that's true of any entrepreneur, right? You have a dream, you have a vision, hopefully, of what you're trying to do, and it's more than just I want to make $1 million. It's like I want to build something that looks like X. In my case, it's I want to help businesses tell their story through photography. That's my vision, and working through what that looks like financially. But you've got a vision, Arias, of I want to help businesses increase their bottom line through marketing and building a marketing company that helps people do that. That's your vision, right? It's more than just I want to make a lot of money. I mean, the money is the result of the vision, and hopefully that's what most entrepreneurs are working on. Guys, if you got it back, if you got it the other way around, you got it backwards. You just do.
Start
Um,
start with the value you're going to try to put into the world, right? The problem that you're going to solve, and then work backwards.
Absolutely, absolutely. The longer I do this, the bigger I'm a believer in that. So, but I love the fact that you have it in that percentage on budget, because I know, and I've taken classes, and I've you learn as an entrepreneur. You're constantly learning. If you're
Hmm.
but I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who said you need to be spending X amount percentage wise of what you plan to generate, not what you're currently generating, what you plan to generate. I think that for me, that's probably going to be the takeaway from this discussion areas. And so
Well,
I want to
it
say thank
also
you
allows you
for
to,
that takeaway.
well, I mean, it allows you to adjust your expectations, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, a lot of times people just put arbitrary numbers out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm all about big, audacious goals, right? But then it puts it in perspective like, okay, well, I want to make $1 million. How much is that a month? Okay, that's $83,333 a month. Okay. So then if I need 10% of that, that means I need 8,300 bucks. Okay, crap. Where do I get 8,300 bucks from this month to be able to have enough to put into marketing, right? And it
Yeah.
start your brain gets turning and you're like, there's no, I barely made $8,000, you know, all last quarter. How the hell am I going to get $8,000 just for marketing, right? So it puts things into perspective, and um, you start learning these benchmarks. It makes it easier for you to actually estimate what you're actually going to be able to get accomplished.
No, that's fantastic. Um, at what point? Because one thing, the other thing you should always be doing is looking at what marketing is. When we talked about this a minute ago, what marketing is working versus what marketing is not. Looking back at your lead, where are you getting your leads from versus what are you spending time, effort, and money on that's maybe not generating. How often should an entrepreneur who is concerned about their marketing, which we should all be concerned about our marketing,
Mm-hmm.
how often should we be making those pivots? How often should we be saying, should we be reviewing those numbers? Is it once a quarter, once a month, once a week, daily? I mean, maybe daily is a little too often, too quick to expect to see
Yeah,
results.
I would say you should definitely be looking at your marketing weekly. Again, I have actually a spreadsheet, so I call it my CEO spreadsheet, my dashboard. So we build very sophisticated systems, like we code systems. Ignite Funnels is amazing with keeping track of everything. However, I still have a spreadsheet that I manually put data into. And the reason I do that is because I want to know the numbers of my business, right? If you let something do it automated, well, you're not going to check it, right? Because it's doing it automatically. So you should definitely be checking your marketing weekly, week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, right? Um, but you should also be testing things. So, hey, all right, I'm trying to make $1 million. I've got my $8,000 for the year. I mean, for the month that I'm going to spend. I'm going to spend some over here. I'm going to spend some over here, and then I'm going to take $1,000 and I'm going to spend it on social media ads. Okay. My goal is to get, if I spend $1,000 on ads, 100 leads, right? Great. 100 leads. That's $10 per lead. Okay. So week one, so 100 leads, 4 weeks in a month. That's 25 leads per week. We got to the end of the week. We only have 3 leads. Something's wrong. or or we may need to tweak, or maybe we just, all right, let's give it another week, see if it picks up, especially when you're talking about ads, because ads usually, especially when you first start, like there's a 10 to 12 day period where the system's trying to calibrate, right? A lot of people are hyped, like they publish and then an hour later they're like, I don't have anything. Next, I don't have anything. So they start shutting stuff off and moving things around. Give it a little time. But you should be looking at your results every single week, week over week. If you're not doing that, if you're not looking at how many leads are coming in, if you're not looking at how many people you got a chance to pitch, if you're not looking at how many people you closed, if you're not looking at how much money you're generating per sale, and in really trying to optimize those numbers, how do I get more leads in? How do I get more people to show up so I can pitch? How do I get more people to say yes? All those different things. Well, in all honesty, you are playing at business, right? That's business. I have a customer right now who he very much cares about the way things look. Right, he's in an aesthetically pleasing business. However, I'm getting him to focus on the hardcore numbers. Yeah, we can shoot an amazing video and we can do all of these amazing things that make your business look great. But at the end of the day, how much money are you actually making? How many leads are being generated? How much money is coming into your bank account? And if you're more focused on a TikTok dance or video, or creating a new flyer for your business, or updating your logo, or whatever other busy work that's not making money, then you're playing a business. You're not really serious about this thing. You're afraid to actually have to sit down and sell someone. And at the end of the day, sales means revenue. With no, if you're not making any sales, you don't have any revenue. If you don't have any revenue, you don't have a business. Plain and simple.
And just get
So,
it out. Just get started. Just do. I'll circle back to what we talked about earlier.
yeah.
Done is better than perfect. Just get started and then
Hmm.
see where it goes.
Yeah, and just again, it's the spirit of the of a real entrepreneur says, I know I'm going to screw it up. I know I'm not really good at this, but it has to be done, so I'm going to screw it up anyway. I'm going to get better as I go. And if you take that approach to marketing, if you take that approach to content creation, if you take that approach to sales, if you take that approach to customer service, if you take that approach to the finances of your business, right? Just knowing that you're going to suck at it, and that's okay, and doing it anyway, well, eventually you'll get better and your business will be healthier for it.
Well, there you go. Hey, we're getting close to the end of the hours, and I want to be respectful of your time because I know you and I both have a lot going on. But you something you mentioned earlier, and you wrote a book about it. Is talking about creating content on marketing. It's an easy thing. We've been talking about spending money. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about not spending money, and creating content is a way to not spend a lot of money.
Yep.
So talk about a great way to generate content. And I know you've got a book specifically talking about how to create content and create a lot of it at one time.
Yeah. So wrote a book last year called Content Cannon. It's available in Barnes and Noble and Amazon and all the major retailers. And yeah, it is how you can create 1 month's worth of content for your business in one day. I truly believe that is the place that most people need to start. Everybody doesn't have thousands of dollars to spend on marketing, but most people have a camera in their pocket, right? Every phone produced now has a little camera and a high quality microphone. A lot of the new camera phones now they shoot in 4K, so really high quality stuff. You just have to get in a space where you have decided that you are going to create content consistently. And in Content Canon, this book here, um, we've basically taken everything that we've learned about business in creating content, and I've put it in here, right? What we do in our agency for all our clients. Yeah, perfect. Um, and how can you not spend every day, creating content, staring at Instagram and Facebook, trying to come up with something new every day. Take some time, batch your content, do it all at once so that you can get back to, what you're actually good at and the reason you got into business. Most people didn't get into business to be a YouTuber, right? Or spend all their time on Instagram. But social media is part of the world we live in. It's a part of business now. So if you're going to do it consistently, do it well, and be smart with your time. Content Canon will help you create that content regularly.
That's fantastic. And what are some of the tips that you talk about in the book here? You mentioned one, batching it, and I've gotten to be a big believer. I mean, guys, if you see me, I'll see me on LinkedIn. Love you, follow me, love you, have you. But I generally write those a week's worth of posts sitting down at one time, and then
Mm-hmm.
schedule. I don't. I am not on LinkedIn. Well, that's a lie. I am on LinkedIn every day, but I'm not posting on LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
every day. All right, that stuff's generated one time and scheduled
Mm-hmm.
out, and so the but batching is a great way to do it. But what are some of the other tips that people can do? Because sometimes, I mean, I struggle just even come up with what am I going to talk about? What kind of content am I creating? What do I what are some of those some other tips that people can that you can give people that you talk about and will expand upon in this book.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things is taking the time to really write down all of the mechanisms, components, and small pieces of what you do, right? So, um, what's a good example? I guess we talked about graphic design, right? So if you're a graphic designer, you know a ton of stuff about a ton of stuff. You shading and perspective and margins and all these different things. just take the time to list all those different things, right? All of those minute details about what it is that you do. Just sit down for 30 minutes and just list every small, insignificant little detail of what you do. And the reason you do that is because you can then create content around that little thing, right? You can do a 20-second, 30-second, 1 minute video about margins when you create, how why margins are important, or why white space is important, or spacing in text, right? You can do a 30-second video on spacing in text. You can do a 30-second video on fonts and what different fonts convey. You can do a 30-second video on the difference between a headline 1, headline 2, and a headline 3, right? But it's hard for you to think of those things if you haven't listed them. So I always say do a brain dump. Just take whatever it is that you know, if you're an expert in your thing, and just list as many individual, insignificant little things down on one page as possible. And then from there, you can look at it and say, okay, how can I turn this into a piece of content? And now you've got a list. So if you can get, say, 50 to 100 small things on a list, well, then you've got a year's worth of content. You can post once a week, or you can post twice a week, right? 52 weeks in a year, 104 topics. You can use Chat GPT to come up with some ideas. Like, hey, I'm a photographer. Can you give me 52 topics about photography to make 30-second clips about?
Man, and I'm a huge fan of AI as a thought generator and sort. I mean, I'm in it daily. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a great tool.
it's huge. And once you do that, it's really just getting into a rhythm, right? And one of the ways that I create content consistently is doing podcast, right? So we've been talking for 40 minutes, almost 50 minutes. This is 50 minutes of content for me. I can then take this and cut it into a 15-second clip. If I just took this and I did 15-second clips or 1 minute clips, I mean, I can post one little clip from this interview once a week for the next year, right? Um, Working with other people in your industry, or having candid conversations with people in your industry, or just someone who's curious about what it is that you do, is a great and easy way to create content without a whole lot of planning and having unstructured conversations. And it's something that in our agency we've actually started doing. We have this thing called social authority that's on our site. So it's a blend of social media management and public relations. So we help people get on podcasts like this. To date, I've done over 50 podcasts in the last like 6 or 7 weeks. I'm on a quest to get to 100. So that means that I have like 40 to 50 hours of content that I can then draw from, and then, talking about what it is that I do, showing my expertise, displaying the fact that I know what I'm talking about, that I've been doing this for 15 years. And in doing that, what you do is you do paint yourself as the expert. People are comfortable now that they know that you know your stuff. And more importantly, what we talked about earlier is you are delivering value to your audience in advance of asking them for a thing. All you're asking for a little bit of time to watch my content, and the more content that they watch, well, the more they fall in love with you and your brand.
That's fantastic. Hey, we are near the top of the hour, and I want to bring this home. Arias, thank you so much for joining me this morning and giving us so much of your wisdom, guys. If you want to work with Arias, go to WebsterBerryMarketing.com. Reach out to him, and I'm sure Arias, you've got all kinds of. I know you've got some information on the website, but that's probably going to be the best way to reach you, and be able to pick his brain, which is obviously extremely full of great help and tips and techniques on marketing. And as an entrepreneur myself, I can't thank you enough. I mean, for me, this was it was a master class just sitting here talking to you this morning, and learning what and getting to pick your brain a little bit for free. But look, this is all good, and this is going to be no, seriously, guys. some wonderful takeaways. Reviewing your marketing weekly on a weekly basis, knowing how much money you're trying to generate, and then working backwards and figuring out how much you need to spend on a percentage basis on your marketing. And that's, I don't think I've had that conversation with any, I think I've said that. I've not had that conversation with anybody on working backwards from how much you plan to make and then building your spend around that on a percentage basis, either 5 to 10% on B2B, or what was it, 10 to 15 on B2C. And then knowing where your leads are coming from and really working that lead source and 10xing that lead source. Those are three great takeaways, guys, that any entrepreneur should be able to take away. If you were interested in knowing more about me, that's my information there. And I'd love to chat with you regarding any sort of commercial photography needs that you may have. I am based in Houston, but planes are easy, cars are easy. Give me a call. Happy to chat with you and help you with your commercial photography needs, from headshots to product shots, whatever it is, to help you tell your story to your clientele. And I know Arias does the same thing with his marketing firm to help you tell your story to your target market. So we're both from that standpoint. I think we both would love to chat with you about that. Um, Arias, any final takeaways before we wrap things up um, today? Any final thoughts, any wishes and dreams for the new year? This is 2025, and it's exciting. It's going to be an exciting year, I think.
Yeah, a couple things. As far as wishes and dreams, I've got a goal of I've got a stated goal by the end of 2026 of helping 1,000 entrepreneurs generate $100,000 in their business, and I've got another goal of helping 100 business owners generate $1 million in their business by the end of 2026. So we're going to spend the next 2 years getting to that goal. It's what we call our 100x impact. So that's probably my single wish for the next 2 years. But I'm also very happy that we got nominated as one of the top PR and marketing companies in Dallas uh, by the Dallas Entertainment Awards. So hopefully we will
Congratulations on
get,
that. That's
yeah, yeah. So hopefully we'll win. But it's always just a privilege to be nominated and thought of. And I guess final thought would be what we talked about at the beginning. If you're an entrepreneur or you're a creative of any kind, and you're trying to get your business or get yourself to the next level, my only advice is to just do it. Right? Just take the leap, mess it up, make a mess of it, screw it up. Know that you're going to screw it up. Know that that's okay, and analyze your work. Do better next time. If you continue to do that over and over again, you will eventually become one of the best in the world at what you do.
There you go. Just keep on keeping on, and you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna and you just know you're gonna figure it out along the way.
Yep.
Arias, thank you so much for doing this, guys. We're going to sign off from here. If Feel free to be. Oh, by the way, real quick, this afternoon, be sure to join me for a very special live episode with Paolo Saccone, a incredible portrait photographer and colleague of mine from North Carolina. Um, he really does some beautiful work in a classic Hollywood style. And we're going to talk is photography this afternoon. We're not going to talk business. We're not going to talk. We're just talking photography. So bring your photography questions, and we're going to be talking about why portraits are in headshots, and putting your own face out there is so important, and some of the ways that you can help do that. So be sure to tune in for that very special live episode this afternoon. Arias, we will talk soon, and you take care.
Thank you, Douglas, for having me.
All right, take care. Bye, guys.